Welcome to Valuation Blueprint, a podcast dedicated to practical conversations about what really drives business value. Welcome to Valuation Blueprint. I'm Darren Mize, your host, and this podcast exists for one simple reason. After nearly 28 years in small business transactions, we've seen just about every type of business, every deal structure, and every situation you can imagine. The ones that close smoothly and the ones that break down. And here's what we've learned. Most deal problems aren't caused by bad intentions. They're caused by gaps in understanding. How value is determined. How cash flow is really calculated. What kinds of cash flow streams you should be using to identify value. And why buyers, sellers, brokers, and lenders can look at the same deal through a completely different lens. So this show is about closing those gaps. No theory, just pattern recognition. When you've seen thousands of transactions, you start to recognize the same issues repeating. And once you recognize the pattern, you can often anticipate where a deal is headed long before it gets there. At its core, Valuation Blueprint is about helping everyone in the transaction. It's brokers, sellers, buyers, lenders, and business owners. We want to make sure they get more comfortable identifying risk, spotting red flags around value, and keeping good deals moving. If you're in one of those roles, this podcast is for you. Now, why should you be listening to me? I think this is where we establish some credibility. For almost 3 decades, our work has been focused almost exclusively on small business transactions. We work every day with business brokers, M&A advisors, buyers, sellers, lenders, and business owners. We also work alongside CPAs and attorneys, but our core market is the people trying to get those deals done. Over that time, we've lived through economic shifts that change how deals get priced, financed, negotiated, and closed. We've worked across industries, across geographies, and across just about every deal structure that can be put together. And when it comes to SBA lending, we were the early movers in SBA compliant valuation work. That was back in the late 1990s and early 2000s when lending on goodwill was still a new idea and many lenders were cautious. That philosophy has obviously changed dramatically over time. But we weren't just participants in that evolution. We had direct involvement in shaping and helping write the SBA 7A valuation standards. Those are the guidelines and the SOP lenders follow for valuations tied to an SBA 7A loan. So what you'll hear on this podcast isn't opinion. It's practical insight based on repetition, pattern recognition from real transactions involving privately held businesses. So what will this season actually help you understand or even avoid? We're going to talk about why deals fail after an LOI, what typically causes those breakdowns. We're going to be clearing up cash flow and add back misunderstandings because that's really where a lot of the confusion lies. We're going to cover market intelligence, what to look for before listing a business for sale, and what lenders and buyers are really underwriting when they review a deal. We'll dig into every inventory and working capital issue that you can imagine, how they affect value and why people so often get them wrong. We'll talk about why buyers, sellers, and lenders often talk past each other and how to get everybody aligned on the same objective. We'll address market multiples, why they are often misapplied, whether it's the wrong cash flow stream, the wrong peer group, or even the wrong assumption. And then we'll focus on something that matters to everybody listening, how to help good deals keep moving, and how to identify the bad ones early enough to avoid wasting time and wasting a lot of money. Everything we cover is built on the questions we get in the real world, the day in and day out, all the phone calls and emails that we get on a day-to-day basis. These are real-world questions, and we want to make sure that we answer them as best we can for you. So now, where does this perspective come from? It didn't come from textbooks. It came from building a business inside this space and staying in it. We never stopped being business owners. We're still entrepreneurs and operators at heart. We're still making decisions, taking risks, and feeling the consequences, just like the people we work with. That matters because valuation isn't just math, it's context. It's reality. It's understanding what a business is truly capable of and what could derail it. For a little bit about our company, we were founded back in 1997. My brother and I, Steve, were co-founders, and Steve really was the one who crystallized the vision. He was attending a business conference in Jacksonville, Florida. He sat on a business valuation session with a good friend of his, who is now my wife, Michelle. During that session, he turned to her and said, "I think I can do this better." Later that summer, he took a job with BR Business Brokers. They hired him knowing he had valuation experience, and his role was to help value listings, so those businesses could go to market at a price that made sense and could actually get sold. And that's where he saw an idea and an opportunity. And along the way, he realized something important. There was a real opportunity in the business broker market to bring some clarity to value, so brokers could set realistic expectations, sellers could understand what drives price, and buyers could evaluate deals with fewer surprises. So we built the company around that premise: accurate value, better deal outcomes. That was really our goal, and we really haven't deviated far from that. Once we committed to serving brokers and the M&A advisors, we did what most entrepreneurs do early on. We decided to come up with a few good ideas, and the one that settled with us was a roadshow. So we took a roadshow with whatever capital we had at the time, and we visited just about every major business brokerage office across the state of Florida. We introduced ourselves, we built some relationships, we listened, we learned what was working, what wasn't, and where their deals were breaking down. At that time, that included franchise groups like Sunbelt Business Brokers and VR Business Brokers. And as we met more advisors, the same themes started to repeat. That pattern recognition I mentioned earlier started forming. Things like what creates confidence in a deal, what creates doubt, and what causes a transaction to stall. But early on, things weren't easy. They were moving really slow for us. And it got a little scary, but then we attended a conference for the Florida Business Brokers Association, and right next to us exhibiting was AT&T Capital. That conversation became our entry point into the SBA market and into the lender community at large. That was a really big deal for us. And again, timing mattered. SBA lending, especially around goodwill, was still early. It was still developing. So we were able to get into the front door, build some relationships, and help create a more consistent way of looking at value for finance transactions. Now, our story isn't a straight lineup. We had plenty of near misses, a lot of failures along the way, and for the most part, we ran out of capital almost twice. We secured a line of credit, and we almost ran out of that too. And later that fall, when there was very little money left in a checking account, we got a big break, and we finally turned a profit. We haven't looked back since. I share that because we're not just observers in this world, we're participants. We're business owners too. We know what it's like to start from scratch, to build something, to take risks, to make payroll, to make hard calls, and to push things through uncertainty. We've done it a lot in the last 27 years. We know what it's like when ownership changes hands. A sale isn't just a transaction, it's emotional, it's personal. It's years, sometimes decades of effort being priced, negotiated, and transitioned. And when people don't understand how value is determined or how lenders underwrite cash flow, that emotion can turn into confusion, frustration, and stalled momentum. That's a big reason why this podcast exists, to help you understand the rules of the road before you're in the middle of the intersection. I'll also say this, like most entrepreneurs, we love taking risks. We love building. We love the thrill that comes with it. And we love the growth that can come with it as well. And yes, we have failures too. GCF has been a success story for us, but we've ventured into other things that didn't work, and we learned from them. Failure is part of the deal if you're willing to learn, and we were. So what's coming next? Our next episode tackles working capital and inventory, two topics that create constant questions and misunderstandings in transactions. And we get a lot of questions surrounding this topic. We're going to break that down, what's typically included, what's considered excess, why it matters for value, pricing, and financing. Later this season, we're going to dig into market intelligence. That's specific industries and business models so you can understand what healthy cash flow looks like, where the red flags show up, and how multiples are actually used in the real world. We'll also work in case-style examples to make these concepts practical and come into play. And again, every topic from the day-to-day questions we get from you are built on decades of repetition and pattern recognition. This is Valuation Blueprint. My name is Darren Mize, your host. Thanks for listening, and until next time, let's keep small business moving. Thanks for joining us on Valuation Blueprint. For more expert analysis on what drives business value, visit gvalue.com.